Coca-Cola has sponsored the Olympics longer than most countries have existed in their current form, and yet, one plastic cup nearly turned that legacy into a PR problem. Welcome to Social Brody Podcast, the podcast where we break down sponsorship deals, events, and the business logic behind the biggest partnership in the world. If you're interested in why brands sponsor events, how these deals actually work, and what makes a sponsorship successful or risky, you are in the right place. And today's episode couldn't be more timely. The Olympic Games in Milano Cortina have just started, and once again, the world is watching. Billions of viewers, hundreds of countries, trillions of impressions. The Olympics are consistently ranked as one of the most valuable brands on the planet, often second only to giants like Apple or Google. Not because they sell the product, but because they sell meaning. So, when we think about the Olympics Games, a few things immediately come to mind. Historic moments, emotional victories, countries coming together every 4 years. But there is another thing that's almost always there. Quietly, consistently for nearly a century. Coca-Cola. A partnership started in 1928, runs until 2032, and has survived wars, pandemics, culture shifts, and massive changes in marketing itself. This makes it the longest contribution partnership in the Olympic history. This episode isn't just about branding, it's about why sponsorship started, how it evolved, and legacy it created, the mistakes along the way as well, and what the Olympics actually mean for Coca-Cola as a global brand. But now, let's rewind nearly 100 years. Before we even talk about Coca-Cola, we need to understand why the Olympics are so valuable. From a sponsorship theory perspective, the Olympics offer three rare things at once. First is a global reach. Very few events truly unite audiences across continents, cultures, and political systems. The Olympics do. Second comes emotional intensity. People don't just watch, they feel national pride, personal stories, underdogs. Emotion is the most valuable currency in branding. And third is a temporal scarcity. The Olympics happen once every 4 years. That rarity creates urgency and attention that weekly leagues simply cannot replicate. From a sponsorship framework point of view, the Olympics sit at the very top of what we call symbolic capital. Brands don't sponsor the Olympics to sell tomorrow, they sponsor them to stay relevant for decades. So now let's transport ourselves to 1928 to Amsterdam, when Coca-Cola entered the Olympic story. At that time, the concept of sport sponsorship as we know it today didn't really exist. There were no integrated campaigns, no brand activations, no influencer athletes. At that time, Coca-Cola wasn't the global giant we know today. It was still very much an American brand, and the Olympics offered something powerful, an international stage filled with emotions, pride, and attention. Coca-Cola became the first commercial sponsor in Olympic history, but in a very subtle way. The company shipped 1,000 crates of Coca-Cola with the US Olympic team across the Atlantic. The drinks were sold in kiosks near the stadium and rowing venues. And here is a key detail. There was no official advertising inside the venues. No banners, no official signage linking Coca-Cola to the games. From a modern marketing perspective, this looks almost invisible, but strategically, it was brilliant. You ask why? Because Coca-Cola wasn't buying attention, it was buying association. This is a classic example of meaning transfer theory in sponsorship. The positive values of the event slowly transfer to the brand through repetitive exposure. From a sponsorship strategy point of view, Coca-Cola and the Olympics are a near perfect match. Coca-Cola's brand positioning has always been about happiness, togetherness, optimism, or shared moments. These values align almost one-to-one with the Olympic movement. The Olympic represents ideas Coca-Cola desperately wanted to be associated with, like optimism, youth, unity, shared human experience. Unlike club sports or national leagues, the Olympics don't belong to one country or culture, they belong to everyone. For Coca-Cola, this wasn't a short-term marketing move. It was a long-term brand strategy. This is what sponsorship theory calls value congruence. High value congruence increases brand credibility, recall, emotional acceptance. In simple terms, partnership feels natural, not forced. This is one of the reasons the deal has lasted nearly 100 years. Let's look on the other Olympic Games with this refreshment drink. As the partnership evolved, Coca-Cola's role changed. After World War II, at the London 1948 Olympics, Coca-Cola had to overcome major supply issues of this post-war era. Coca-Cola needed to transport equipment from Glasgow and Belfast and to provide drinks for athletes and spectators alike, providing not only refreshment but also a sense of hope and belonging during the post-war reconstruction period. At the Helsinki 1952 Games, there was no local production at all. So Coca-Cola needed to ship more than 30,000 cartons from the Netherlands, stored on a ship which was converted from a war landing craft. The ship was used as a floating warehouse. So this is what we call operational sponsorship, when the sponsor becomes essential to the functioning of the event. That year, Coca-Cola also moved into the experiential sponsorship. That same year, at the Winter Olympics in Oslo, Coca-Cola made a strong impression when it first introduced its helicopter to the local public. Its landing in front of the City Hall was watched by approximately 20,000 spectators. By the 1980s and 90s, Coca-Cola fully understood something critical. Can you guess what? Well, they figured out that people don't remember ads because they remember experiences. At least that's what I do, don't you? At the Calgary 1988 Winter Olympics, Coca-Cola opened the first official pin trading center that attracted over 17,000 visitors a day. That's a freaking huge number, right? Pin trading became an Olympic tradition, something fans do, not just see, and it became so popular it often is called the number one sport among Olympic spectators. I guess how many people do this in Milano this year. At the 1996 Summer Olympics, Coca-Cola pushed experiential sponsorship to an entirely new level. Atlanta hosted the longest Olympic torch relay in history, stretching over 24,000 kilometers, and Coca-Cola positioned itself directly along this journey, not just as a sponsor, but as a companion to the Olympic story. At the heart of the Games, Coca-Cola created Coca-Cola Olympic City, a massive purpose-built experience space covering nearly 50,000 square meters designed not to advertise, but to immerse. Visitors could test themselves in virtual sport challenges, meet Olympic athletes, and explore a folk art exhibition inspired by Coca-Cola's iconic bottles. From a sponsorship strategy perspective, this is called a clear shift. Coca-Cola wasn't competing for attention on screens or banners or something like that. It was competing for time, memory, and emotional engagement with those people. This is the essence of modern experiential sponsorship. When the brand becomes part of the event's live experience, not just its visual backdrop. At this point, Coca-Cola wasn't just a sponsor, it was a co-creator of the Olympic experience. From a marketing theory standpoint, this is a shift from exposure to engagement and from visibility to participation. Modern sponsorship success is not measured by logos, no, but by time spent with the brand. But no sponsorship is without risk. Coca-Cola's biggest challenges come from what sponsorship researchers call image spillover. As awareness around health and sustainability grew, Coca-Cola became a target for criticism, especially at global events like the Olympics. As public concern around health, sugar consumption, and plastic waste grew, Coca-Cola's Olympic presence began to raise uncomfortable questions. How does a sugary beverage brand align with elite athletic performance? Or how does a plastic-heavy product align with sustainability-focused games? Right? At the 2024 Olympics in Paris, Coca-Cola encountered a clear example of the strategic risk inherited from a long-term partnership. Paris positioned the Games as one of the most sustainable in Olympic history, with a strong public commitment to reduce single-use plastic. As an official sponsor, Coca-Cola inherited these expectations. However, in practice, drinks were often served in reusable cups filled from small plastic bottles, leading to large volumes of single-use plastic waste behind the scenes. Gross. From a marketing theory perspective, this represents a failure in brand credibility alignment. When a sponsor publicly supports the values of an event, but operational execution contradicts those values, it creates what sponsorship scholars call reputational spillover risk. This situation also highlights the importance of stakeholder expectation management. Modern audiences don't evaluate sponsorship based on logos or claims. They evaluate them based on consistency between message and behavior. So what does the Olympic sponsorship mean for Coca-Cola today? Well, it's not about short-term sales. It's not even about awareness. Everyone already knows the brand. Who doesn't? This partnership is about legitimacy. The Olympics signal that Coca-Cola isn't chasing trends, it's a part of global tradition. Because being an Olympic partner signals three things: stability, global relevance, and cultural permanence. Since 1928, through wars, pandemics, political shifts, and cultural change, Coca-Cola has remained. The partnership is currently secured through 2032. That kind of consistency is rare, not just in marketing, but in business. From a strategic perspective, Coca-Cola didn't just sponsor the Olympics, it became part of them. Whether you admire the brand or criticize it, the one thing is undeniable. You cannot tell the story of the Olympics Games without telling the story of Coca-Cola. And that, in itself, might be the most powerful sponsorship lesson of all. Yeah, and that's the key takeaway from today's episode of Social Birdie. Great sponsorships aren't campaigns, they are relationships. If you want to read more about sponsorship, strategy, events, and brand partnership, you can visit my website at davidbrodetsky.com. And make sure to listen to the next episode of Social Birdie podcast, where we will stay at the Olympics by shift focus to a very different kind of sponsor. We'll be talking about Omega, the official Olympic timekeeper, and why measuring time might be one of the most powerful sponsorship positions in sport. Because at Olympics, every fraction of second matters. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the next episode.